Right then, JJ McCarthy, Carson Wentz. No one knows who's going to start against the Eagles yet, but let's work out the pros and cons of both quarterbacks. Hello everyone, my name's Ollie and welcome back to another episode on the Fourth and SKOL YouTube channel. Right then, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles this coming Sunday. We're coming off the bye week. We're hoping to have a few big names back from defense to offense. But the big question is, who will be the starting quarterback come Sunday afternoon? I don't think it's a big surprise to us Vikings fans, but Kevin O'Connell has been very non-committal in his press conferences so far this week about who the starting quarterback will be. He has said it's not going to be a secret come Sunday, and we will find out as practice develops this week. But I think most importantly to note, both quarterbacks are not 100% healthy. JJ McCarthy, of course, is coming off that ankle sprain from week 2 against the Falcons. And Carson Wentz himself is coming off a bit of a left shoulder injury from a collision in the Cleveland Browns game. And I think the severity of both of these injuries will ultimately decide who plays as quarterback on Sunday. But let's run down the pros and cons of both quarterbacks going into week 7. Let's start with JJ McCarthy. Number 9, JJ McCarthy is meant to be the guy going forward. He is the starting quarterback when fit. And already in the first 2 games of his NFL career, he has demonstrated he is tough. His toughness is on display, being able to play through that ankle injury in week 2, to show some fight, diving for the end zone in week 1 against the Bears. The kid's game, the kid's tough, and he's built for this league. Linking to that, we know he's a winner. We know he's won a Natty, he's won a national championship with Michigan. And that winning mentality instills an air of confidence, not only for JJ McCarthy himself, but it also, trickles onto the team too. Also, another point about his physicality, he's a mobile quarterback. He's able to use his legs to escape the pocket. We're not calling him a running quarterback, a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray by any means, but he's quick enough, he's able enough to escape the pocket and use his legs to gain vital and critical yardage when coverage is tight. Another positive would be to look at the blueprints of other quarterbacks from within JJ McCarthy's draft class. For example, look at Drake May. He's absolutely killing it this year. He had a rough rookie season to begin with, but he's now finding his feet. He's really starting to become a top quarterback in the division and in the league. So the blueprint is there. JJ McCarthy needs reps. He needs snaps. The path is there for him to develop and become a top quarterback in this league, just like Drake May is showing with New England Patriots. Another big pro for McCarthy in this game in particular is he's got that O-line strength in depth back around him. He'll have the benefit of playing under Christian Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, Blake Brandel, Brian O'Neill and Michael Juergens, depending on where they place Brandel, of course. That is a significant upgrade on the O-line that JJ McCarthy had to deal with against the Falcons. Funnily enough, the Falcons actually have a very good passing defense. Second in passing YPA, 14 sacks in 5 games. They haven't allowed more than 159 yards in any game. So perhaps we might have been too early to judge that performance from JJ McCarthy with an absolutely battered and bruised O-line in that game. Things should and hopefully will be dramatically different against the Eagles. And lastly, for the Eagles, there's actually a lack of film on JJ McCarthy compared to the film and knowledge they have on former quarterback Carson Wentz. That might be an advantage for the Minnesota Vikings in terms of what a surprise McCarthy could be on the game and how much of an impact he could be and how little preparation they've been able to conduct on him. So then, the cons of JJ McCarthy. Obviously, in those 2 games for the Vikings at the start of this season, it wasn't pretty for McCarthy. There was plenty of times where he panicked under the pressure, perhaps, of the poor O-line. And there were some poor sacks or some very unnecessary throws in those 2 games. He wasn't helped by his teammates with a couple of poor drop passes, but equally, he was a little bit inaccurate in those 2 games too. Now, we're facing the former Super Bowl champs who were coming off 2 bad losses, who are looking for revenge and looking to try and get their offense firing. This is going to be a very high pressure game for McCarthy. It's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be easy by any means. There's certainly going to be a lot going on in this headset in terms of clock management, in terms of play calling, in terms of commanding this offense, in probably what is likely going to be a very extremely close game, which could come down to the wire. Can he handle all of those pressures? It's a lot to take in for essentially a rookie QB. Again, another con, the playbook will likely be dumbed down in comparison to what Carson Wentz will be dealing with. Plays will be more scripted, more conservative, more easy, more little dump off, screens, slants, etc. There might be less explosive plays, there might be less of a reliance on Justin Jefferson and more of a reliance on, Hockenson and those within short yardage gains. And again, as we've touched on, is he fully fit? There's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of questions asked of him from that ankle. Is that ankle 100%? Is he good to go? A drop back into the pocket, holding on to the ball for a little bit too long could cause him another serious injury. So let's move on to Carson Wentz, shall we? Pros. Obviously, Carson is an experienced quarterback who's been in many different situations in the league. He's been there, he has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. He's a quarterback that will be familiar playing in these pressurized scenarios, and most importantly, he'll probably be playing with a chip on his shoulder. No pun intended on that one. His NFL career started off so well with the Eagles until that devastating knee injury. And since then, he's started to go backwards and he's never really looked like that QB in his 2nd year with the Eagles. I'm sure a lot of these professionals use receipts. They use any sort of nuggets of motivation to try and fire them up and get them ready to go. And I'm sure Carson Wentz will want more than anything a big fat W in the column against his former team. As we've touched on earlier in this video, with Carson Wentz, you're able to open the playbook out. You're able to, get some really explosive plays, some trick plays, some really really interesting things dialed up, long developing plays to Justin Jefferson downfield that you might not be able to get with a JJ McCarthy. Again, if Carson Wentz were to start, this would be his 4th start for the Vikings in a row. He's starting to develop some comfortability with the role. He's getting used to the coaching staff, the players, the play call, the feel, the environment, and of course, the home stadium, the US Bank Stadium, atmosphere. No matter if it's grassroots or professional level, players need time to adapt. And I think, starting 3 games under his belt, this could potentially be his 4th, will only benefit Carson Wentz. And similar to the pro with McCarthy, the Vikings will have a near full offensive line. It will make such a big difference not to be under such constant pressure. You might see, those unnecessary sacks that we've seen from Carson Wentz a little bit this season. We may not see that, and we should see him have more time on the ball to do what Carson does best and use that big arm strength of his. Finally, the cons of Carson Wentz. Lack of mobility. Since that knee injury, he's not been as mobile as he has been. He's still very in tune and very intelligent in the QB position, and he knows when to escape when he needs to. But has he got that extra burst that he needs to get him out of serious danger at sometimes? I don't quite think so. We've seen in his first 3 games, he's taken some unnecessary sacks where he could have just darted the ball out of field. Again, probably don't want to criticise him too much on that. We've struggled massively with O-line issues, but we just need to find some common ground with Carson Wentz because we've seen the risk-taking side of him as well, particularly against the the Steelers and the Browns. He's willing to rush out the pocket and really put his body on the line. And is that necessarily the most smartest idea with JJ McCarthy out and not fully fit? Probably not. We've seen before in the past with different teams, the Colts in particular, he's not made the best and most smartest decisions, hospital passes, really embarrassing forced fumbles, ball security, etc. And we haven't really seen that with the Vikings, but he's always a fear in the back of your mind. But yeah, is he going to throw a big fat pick 6 is always a worry. And finally, to close, he's not fully fit. KOC has mentioned this in press conferences this week already. Fortunately for him, it's his left shoulder, it's not his throwing shoulder, but could that be causing him some discomfort? And could it have a big impact on his decision making in the game on Sunday? So there we have it, the pros and cons of both Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy. Do we know who's going to start on Sunday? We do not. By the time you see this video, there may already be a decision in place. But at the point of recording on Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m. in UK time, we have no clue. So it will be an important decision for not only this week, but again for week 8, coming off a short week on Thursday Night Football against the Chargers. But as always, thank you very much for watching and listening. Let us know in the comments, who would you start against the Philadelphia Eagles? JJ McCarthy or Carson Wentz? But as always, thanks for watching. SKOL Vikes.